Today's video is sponsored by Limpy the Quail, available on Amazon. Warning. Depression caused by the lack of access to Sheep Raider is not the responsibility of Hayden the Maker 1000 or its parent company, Monstro. Also warning, though emulators are considered legal, playing games on those emulators is somehow still considered illegal. This cure for depression is not advised by Hayden the Maker 1000 or its parent company Monstro, even though it is convenient and fun and the only way to play many games that have been lost to time. So don't do it. Junior high was the unhappiest time of my life. I could no longer be proud of my favorite cartoons. It was 2004 and suddenly it wasn't cool to watch SpongeBob or Fairly Odd Parents anymore. I was getting made fun of for every goofy thing I loved, including Goofy, Tiny Toon Adventures, Animaniacs, Rocket Power. People just looked at you funny if you said you liked this stuff. It just hadn't become nostalgia yet. Everyone was watching Jackass. And it wasn't just TV, it was video games too. Games were seeming less colorful and more dark. Everyone wanted to murder prostitutes in Grand Theft Auto. I just wanted to play in that fantasy world again of cartoon fun, but that wasn't cool anymore. As you can imagine, things only got worse. For some people, going through puberty means becoming a man. For me, it meant growing boobs. I grew a ripe pair of man titties. People who I thought were my best friends were drawing comics about how fat I was. And when I tried out for the football team, the coach told me to come back next life. I don't think even reincarnation could make me a better athlete. Needless to say, I wasn't fitting in. Obviously, I wasn't cool enough to be a cool kid, but I wasn't unique enough to be an artsy kid. All the outcasts like goths, skaters, musicians, and artists thought I was some Mormon. The only Mormon thing I ever did was watch two girls dry hump in the closet at a Mormon dance, and they wouldn't even let me join in, so that wasn't cool either. It seemed like junior high would mark the end of my originally happy childhood. But then, one day I found a demo disc. On this demo disc was a game called Sheep Raider. Suddenly I was overjoyed. They were still making Looney Tunes games. My childhood wasn't over yet. All the sadness and depression from junior high just evaporated. I played the demo over and over. I found the secret. I stole the sheep. I played around with the mechanics, always salivating. I couldn't wait to buy this game. But I quickly realized that something was wrong. Again and again, I would go to the store, but each time, I would never see Sheep Raider, which made sense. 2001 saw the release of the Xbox, and 2000 saw the release of the PS2. It was an exciting time for new games. PS1 titles were being pushed aside, and the shelves were being filled with the latest releases for Xbox and PS2. I couldn't find Sheep Raider anywhere, so it was time to pull out the big guns. I asked Mom for help. Together we took our search to eBay, where we found the game for a modest $70. The seller mentioned that the game got a limited release in the US, but why? But hey, who cares? I got the game. What followed was a week of pure bliss. I fell in love with Sheep Raider. It was a platformer stealth puzzle game that took place in the Looney Tunes universe. What's not to like? While everyone at school was making fun of me for being fat and having no friends because now my friends were calling me fat, I could go home and escape into the Looney Tunes world. I started doing what all fans do and started fantasizing about sequels. I couldn't wait to see what other kind of games the Looney Tunes universe would crank out. This was the first time that you really got to play as a bad guy in a Looney Tunes game. So I started fantasizing about new Looney Tunes games, where maybe you got to play as Elmer Fudd and you had to chase Bugs Bunny, or maybe you got to play as Sylvester and you chased Tweety. I imagined high-speed chase games where you finally caught the Roadrunner. Think about it, if a game with a premise like Sheep Raider could actually work, then technically every Looney Tunes cartoon could be a video game. Looney Tunes has always been about chases, goals, and fun environments. And that's the building blocks to every great video game. But they never made another Looney Tunes game that was like Sheep Raider. After Sheep Raider, Looney Tunes games definitely took a turn. The world of Looney Tunes games began to drift further and further away from the original source material. What I mean by that is in Sheep Raider, as well as previous Looney Tunes games, you got to reenact what the Looney Tunes actually did in their world. In Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, you got to run away from pirates, just like in the cartoon. In Sheep Raider, you got to steal sheep, just like in the cartoon. There were exceptions, but these were mostly quick cash grabs. The Looney Tunes games that people remember stayed true to their source material. These games were bright, colorful, and felt like they could actually be episodes of the original series. But now Looney Tunes were just characters in random party games. There were some attempts like Taz Wanted, but it felt so disconnected from the Looney Tunes universe. Here Taz was skateboarding and going down water slides. It didn't feel like a Looney Tunes game. Without a doubt, the best Looney Tunes games always felt like Looney Tunes episodes. Bugs Bunny Lost in Time feels like a long episode. In the game, Bugs Bunny takes a wrong turn at Albuquerque and ends up in a secret base where there is a time machine, and he takes it and has wacky adventures with wacky characters, which is just in line with an episode of Bugs Bunny. It's the same with Sheep Raider. In the original episodes of Looney Tunes, Ralph Wolf would try and steal sheep from Sam Sheepdog. And that's what the game is about. And when you have that connection between gameplay and source material, you have a recipe for a winning Looney Tunes game. That is the separation between the good Looney Tunes games and the very bad ones. Now at this point, you might be wondering what is so bad about moving away from the source material. Now an argument can be made that Mario games are putting their characters into any kind of a genre, and Mario is very successful. If it worked for Mario, why wouldn't it work for Looney Tunes? A lot of people, even people who really aren't into video games, love Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf. The problem is that Mario was never based off characterized storytelling like the Looney Tunes. Mario games are always about fun first, and aside from a few titles, the story usually comes second. Today's video is sponsored by Limpy the Quail. Limpy the Quail is a beautiful children's book that was written by William Beans with illustrations by Hattie Hyder. What really got me about this book was Hattie Hyder's unbelievably beautiful and nostalgic illustrations. They remind me of the covers of old Roald Dahl books like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Danny, Champion of the World. It's lush and saturated with these wonderful watercolors. And the baby quail just get cuter and cuter. Children will love the pictures, and adults are gonna find something very fascinating about the story. Limpy the Quail is surprisingly deep in its narrative. It's about a papa quail who hurts himself and can only walk on one leg. He's also got 6 babies he's got to watch after. I wish I could lie to you guys, but the truth is that my eyes get pretty misty when I read about this papa quail overcoming his ailment. It's a genuine heartfelt story. Limpy the Quail is about how problems don't just go away. Sometimes we have to find a way to work with what hurts us. Limpy the Quail creates that same feeling as watching a Renaissance Disney film with a child. You know, the child will be dancing, "I can't wait to be king," and you're just bawling because the film is so beautiful and it's conjuring up memories and it's making you feel like a kid again, and you're seeing stuff that you didn't see before. It's a lot like that. There's layers. So please check out Limpy the Quail. It is available on Amazon, written by William Beans, illustrations by Hattie Hyder, and layout by Vinny. That's Limpy the Quail, available on Amazon. As Sheep Raider came out, the gaming landscape was changing. People were getting into these hardcore gaming experiences like Halo, Grand Theft Auto 3, and Metal Gear Solid 2. Sheep Raider was now being judged against games like Halo. PlayStation Magazine, which had originally featured Sheep Raider on the cover of one of their issues, ended up slamming the game in their final review. That is like somebody promoting you, but then pulling your pants down in front of a girl you like. And I can tell you that from experience. Sheep Raider was a business venture fully aware of its own impending failure. It was a PlayStation 1 title released after the PlayStation 2. The game was backwards compatible and could be played on a PlayStation 2. However, This was early in the PlayStation 2's lifespan, and if you had one, you were probably buying PlayStation 2 games. When you've just got a new system, the idea of buying games meant for older systems doesn't usually interest you, at least for a little while. As consumers, we might be in disbelief that a company would intentionally launch a product with full assumption of failure. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that the gaming industry is still an industry. It's business first and love of games second. This is how it is with all business. When I worked at an RV dealership as a photographer, I was quite surprised to find out that only one employee at the entire dealership actually owned an RV. Business is not meant for the people who are obsessed with the products they make. In fact, if you have a passion for the product you sell, there is actually a good chance that it will hinder your success. Food for thought. But despite the acceptance of failure, user reviews throughout the years for Sheep Raider have remained pretty high. And rightly so, because the game is fun. The controls have a smooth yet cartoony feel. For example, if you tap the dash button, you enter this wacky dash that literally allows you to walk on thin air. This of course makes speedrunning the game very eye-catching. The music is psychedelic jazz rock. The level design is always just big enough to make you want to explore, but just small enough to remain simple. Each level never feels bigger than it should be. In Sheep Raider, the stealth sequences create genuine tension. The game forces players to gamble between remaining conservative and staying in hiding spots, or moving faster trying to get to that next target. In almost every level, you will have to utilize every hiding spot, and when you get caught, you have to make a heart-racing mad dash away from Sam Sheepdog. Your top speed is just a little bit slower than Sam Sheepdog, making getaways always feel like serious accomplishments. The game is colorful. The color palette somehow manages to introduce both watercolors and deeply saturated tones in a PS1 game. Easter eggs are well hidden, but if a player is curious, they can be found with a modest amount of searching. For example, if you explore a bit with the jetpack in level 3, you will find a hot air balloon with Sylvester and Granny, which is a subtle nod to Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. If you're creative with your items, you can trigger hidden dialogue from Porky Pig and Daffy Duck. What's even better, if you collect enough secrets, you can actually unlock 2 whole secret levels. I didn't realize where one of these secret levels was until I was almost 30. That just goes to show you how deep this game can be, and how excited I was when I realized there was a level I had never played after all these years. The list keeps going on. Items and gadgets utilize cartoon physics. Umbrellas work like parachutes. Vacuum cleaners can suck up ghosts. Rubber bands can be used as slingshots or for bungee jumping. Electric fans can power rafts, and of course, magic flutes can hypnotize sheepdogs, which is just so much fun. The flying mechanics are so surprisingly good that every time I play the game, I always end up fantasizing about an all-flying level, like a level in the sky, but oh well, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? But that's not all. There are enemy character interactions where you can use one enemy against another. The most notable example is when the dragon follows you back to the sheep flock, only to be beaten into submission by Sam Sheepdog. Your main enemy crushes your new enemy, and it's wonderful. As they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This happens again later with Monstro, a bull, and even a swarm of bees. It's a great moment where narrative and gameplay come together. There's also some great moments of teamwork. Once you get past the stealth section in each level, you gotta use the sheep to help you solve puzzles. You'll use the sheep for many things, including opening doors, hitting switches, beating a boss, and even turning into an ice cube. But luckily you have your trusty hair dryer to help thaw out the sheep. The shivering animation that the sheep makes always makes me want to just hug the little thing and warm him up. The game is also forgiving. There's no lives or checkpoints. When you die, you just get sent back to the beginning of the puzzle, which is great because now you get to step back and analyze the situation more clearly. There are subtle nuances to each level. like using your own footprints to backtrack through a minefield. A lot of times these details aren't really told to you and you have to figure them out. There's context-sensitive environments. You'll use bushes to sneak through grassy levels. You'll use gravity in space levels. You use a train in the desert level. You use cannons in the castle level. You trick a pirate with gold in the beach level. It's these little details that really immerse you into the level design. But at the end of the day, Sheep Raider was a great game because it had great inspiration. It's no secret that many critics consider Sheep Raider to be the children's version of Metal Gear Solid 1, which makes sense because many parents would not let their child play a mature game like Metal Gear Solid 1. You can really see the puzzle coming together here. I think any gaming investor would easily see potential in an E for everyone Metal Gear Solid clone, especially if it was using Looney Tunes characters. Sheep Raider would obviously work for kids, but it would also work for adults who were looking for a little bit of accessible stealth mechanics as well as some good old nostalgia. And I must say, at my ripe age of 31, after revisiting both Sheep Raider and Metal Gear Solid 1, I can safely say that I genuinely enjoyed Sheep Raider better. The first thing that I enjoyed in Sheep Raider more than Metal Gear Solid 1 was, of course, the free camera. In Metal Gear Solid 1, the top-down view isn't always good enough to see enemies that are kind of right in front of you. You're constantly having to switch to first-person view just to see an enemy that's about 10 feet away. In Sheep Raider, you can actually jump. You also have super speed, so backtracking is no problem. Many players, myself included, sometimes find the backtracking in Metal Gear Solid 1 to be a bit of a chore. Moving around in Metal Gear Solid 1 can feel like handling a shopping cart. While Sheep Raider's controls aren't as smooth as that of Crash Bandicoot, it is easier to master than Metal Gear Solid 1. To top it all off, there's only a few stealth sections in Metal Gear Solid 1, and the game stops being a stealth game after you beat Vulcan Raven. Sheep Raider, on the other hand, has a distinct stealth sequence in every level. And finally, Sheep Raider doesn't make you equip annoying door access cards like Metal Gear Solid 1, but we need to pause. No more clickbait. Let's get out of that. Sheep Raider might be more fun and accessible than Metal Gear Solid 1, but Metal Gear Solid 1 does so much that Sheep Raider cannot. Metal Gear Solid 1 offers a dense world to explore. Metal Gear Solid 1 also has a rich story that will probably make you care. Metal Gear Solid 1 offers multiple routes to complete the same objective. What I'm trying to say is that Sheep Raider is not perfect. Sheep Raider's biggest fault comes in the form of its only boss battle. That is correct, there is one boss in Sheep Raider and it's dead center in the middle of the game. As you finish the level, you are confronted with Monstro, who is the classic big red scary monster from the Looney Tunes cartoons. The fight is ridiculous. From a design perspective, the boss fight is creative. It utilizes most of the gameplay mechanics and even utilizes the sheep. I don't know about you, but I've never played a boss fight that made you work together with a sheep, but creativity alone is not enough. The Monstro Fight is a trash fire. It is completely broken. You have to sprint around Monstro until he gets dizzy, and then you gotta hop on these pinwheels until the light comes out. It sounds simple, but Sheep Raider is not designed for this kind of interaction. The pinwheels catch you and throw you into the lava way too easily. There's never enough room to run around Monstro, and it's just not fun. If you go online and read some threads about Sheep Raider, you will find that the Monstro Fight is where a lot of players actually stopped playing. I think the developers understood the mistake they made because after Monstro, there's no more boss fights. It's like they were saying, sorry, we'll never do that again, we promise. Now, most people would say that you should not judge a game based on one level, but the boss fight is just so game-breaking and frustrating, and most players will not be able to beat it without the help of an online guide. And even then, some gamers will just rage quit. That being said, it is totally acceptable to use some kind of online guide to help you beat Monstro, and this is coming from a die-hard Sheep Raider fan. There are even speedrunners who have found ways to beat Monstro without using the sheep, which some consider to be easier. My advice is watch some online videos, be patient, you'll beat Monstro, and then you can move on the game, the rest of which is nowhere near as frustrating as the Monstro Fight, though it is challenging. For me, the biggest indication of Sheep Raider's brilliance can be found in Level 4. Level 4 is a lush autumn world. The background music features a great psychedelic acid rock with bluesy harmonica. Yeah, try typing that into Spotify. Level 4 starts with introducing the magic flute. It's a classic item in Looney Tunes lore that hypnotizes certain individuals and makes them follow you like a zombie. You explore the opening area of Level 4 and you find the white circle that you will eventually end the game on is actually right in front of you from the beginning. The circle is also guarded by a bull. This indirectly signals to the player that this will be a retrieval mission. Whatever you have to do, you gotta come back here in the end. Whether you know it or not, your subconscious is already working. Your brain is wondering, how is it gonna deal with this bull when confronted in the future? You also realize quickly the flute doesn't work on the bull. It's these little invisible conversations that you have with the developer that makes Sheep Raider so great. Next, you hop in the water and swim over to Sam's sheep herd and... what's this? Sheep Raider's underwater controls are good? Yes, believe it or not, maneuvering underwater in Sheep Raider feels great. It's a simple yet effective torpedo-style swim mechanic that makes maneuvering around piranhas pretty easy. Sheep Raider is probably the only game I've ever played where I actually wished there was more water features. You have to use the water mechanics to find the secret in this level too. It's hidden just well enough to make you have to explore, but never feels too frustrating. Once you pass the water portion of level 4, you come to Sam's sheep herd. Here, Sheep Raider's creators get to toy with your expectations. You find a button next to a sign that says, press the button. You of course press the button and a boulder smashes your head. Here you realize two things. One, the most obvious being that this button is probably not meant for you, it's probably meant for Sam Sheepdog. And two, the developers definitely have a sense of humor and they're not afraid to mess with you. Next, you traverse some simple platforming and you plan your strategy to get that sheep. Here you sneak up to Sam, start playing your flute, and you guide him back to the button where he is smashed by another boulder. If this is your first time playing, you'll probably think that this sequence is over. You'll casually stroll over to a sheep and pick him up. However, this is where you find that the developers have toyed with your expectations yet again. The boulder only immobilizes Sam Sheepdog for about 3 seconds. This means you have to put the flute away, grab a sheep, and hop on the raft as fast as you can. Here, Sheep Raider really gets a good opportunity to show off its ability to create tension. Pretty much no matter how fast you do this sequence, you'll always be getting on that raft just as Sam Sheepdog is catching up. At this point, once again, we get to play with some of that classic Looney Tunes physics. You use a portable house fan to push your raft down the river. There's no enemies or hazards to speak of at this point, but it's a nice, relaxing ride after all that tension we just experienced. From there, you cross the river, you sneak past the bull, and you're finished with level 4. So in just one level, we had our expectations subverted twice. We were introduced to 2 unique items that were contextually sensitive to the environment. We experienced physics that were based in a cartoon reality, and we were provided the opportunity to explore the map in hopes of finding a secret that could potentially unlock more levels. Hey, plus the colors, layout, and music were beautiful, so what more do you want? This is just one of many great examples of design brilliance in Sheep Raider. But overall, even the most die-hard fans of Sheep Raider cannot deny the flaws. We have to face the music. I have to face the music. Sheep Raider is not a better game than Metal Gear Solid 1, but Sheep Raider is just more fun. And like I said earlier, when I revisited the Metal Gear Solid series recently, I found myself frustrated with the weird controls and bad camera. As a 31-year-old adult, I genuinely enjoyed Sheep Raider more than Metal Gear Solid 1. But realistically, we have to remember that you cannot compare Sheep Raider to Metal Gear Solid 1 directly. It's not like Sheep Raider was a game that came out right alongside Metal Gear Solid 1. Sheep Raider was a game that came out right alongside Metal Gear Solid 2. And Metal Gear Solid 2 solved a lot of the problems from Metal Gear Solid 1. So to compare Metal Gear Solid 1 to Sheep Raider is a little unfair. Metal Gear Solid 1 has also been remastered, re-released, and is available on multiple platforms. Sheep Raider, on the other hand, is hard to find, it's never been remastered, and as of today, it has not been released on Steam, GOG, or the PlayStation Network. Your only options are finding a disc and finding a console. With Warner Brothers desperately unaware of where to take their Looney Tunes characters, it is unlikely we will ever see a re-release of Sheep Raider. There is, of course, emulation, but as always, the law is tricky. If emulation interests you, I must recommend that you seek information from some other channel that is infinitely more knowledgeable about emulation than I am. From the little research I've done about emulation, what I can understand is that it seems as though the emulators themselves are legal, but the ROMs that you play on them are somehow illegal. I don't really understand how that works, but like I said, I am tragically unknowledgeable on the subject. As I got older, it was kind of depressing because video games just didn't feel as good anymore. I remember buying Far Cry 4 and just losing interest. I remember the game being good, and I liked the graphics, and I really did like the story, but somehow I just didn't care anymore. It's not that I was growing up, I just felt like I was over it. It was funny because at that point in my life, I thought that I had just outgrown video games. However, all that love and appreciation and joy suddenly came back when I learned that you could play Sheep Raider on a PS3. I no longer had a PS1 or a PS2 anymore, but I still kept that PS3 around to play Blu-rays. I found my old PlayStation 1 Sheep Raider disc and popped it in. There I was, almost 30 years old, and I was having the time of my life playing an old Looney Tunes game from 2001. I can't deny that the game has staying power. With this newfound nostalgia for PlayStation 1 graphics, a game like Sheep Raider has aged surprisingly well. The puzzles are just hard enough to make you think critically. You never have to spam buttons or items. The tension in the stealth portions is genuinely thrilling, and the sheep are just cute. If there is one thing that I would like you to take away from this video, it's that Sheep Raider is not just a romp through childhood memories. It's a genuine challenge that leaves even adults scratching their heads, but never feeling too overwhelmed. The current world of video games seems to appreciate nostalgia a bit more than before. Maybe we might not get Sheep Raider as a remaster. If enough people signed petitions and emailed Warner Brothers, it might happen, but I'm doubtful. Sheep Raider exists in a bizarre game genre, but don't we live in a world with a lot of bizarre games? All you gotta do is browse Steam for a few hours to find that out. With this newfound appreciation for the past and for oddities, maybe Sheep Raider is going to live on through the new gaming landscape. And whether they were inspired by Sheep Raider directly or not, the game lives on. Of course, I am doubtful that any future game creator would use Sheep Raider as a direct inspiration, but I have to admit that I don't think that's what's important. At the end of the day, it's not Sheep Raider that will live on, but the values that it represents.
Chills with guard dogs and violence in the fight. I got chills. I'm stealing and I've dealt without you. I got tears in the dark, but I need your sheep. One day you'll stow on a train. Then one day you'll be with a robot. You'll steal and smile for your life. Or you'll wait until the fight alive. It gets harder, but still true. I can find how to know oneself. I'll steal and escape, shape raider. I'm still an escape, shape raider.
Today's video is sponsored by Limpy the Quail, available on Amazon.